It's been a little while since we chatted, you and I, but I thought it was time we sat down again and had a little discussion about what's been going on. There's been some ups and downs. At the end of last year, I got really ill. It's like the most ill I've ever been, like death's door ill. Not quite death's door. You know, I was probably 2 houses down from death, but I felt awful. I got a really bad chest infection, really high fever, and I literally couldn't get out of bed for about a week. And then that illness followed me for the next 2-3 months. I was starting to get over it, and then it would be bad again. Felt like I was getting better, then I'd be much worse. And I thought maybe 2-3 days off in bed, relax, try and get well again, take my medication, get over this chest infection and get back to work. And it ended up being probably 2 to 3 months before I was completely clear of being ill. And it was horrific. It really knocked me for 6. And I think part of it was, you know, maybe my body forcing me to make some corrections, and part of it was maybe just going through a big kind of transition period and my immune system being low. And I just had to reassess everything that I was doing, because I just could not get up and do the work. I think I managed to make one vlog from bed. I was forcing myself to be creative from my sick bed. It was one of those sicknesses where, you know, I would wake up in the morning and my sheet would be drenched in the kind of outline of my body. It was not good at all. And it took till about February, I think, to get over it fully. And that's when I kind of jumped back into things with any kind of vigor. And once that was finished, I started planning some content around some ice baths. You know, so much of what I wanted to do this year was, test out different methods to see how they aided me in my kind of success, my health, my wealth, and my healthy, wealthy, and happy, you know. So I started doing some ice baths, and then I had noticed that my weight had started creeping up again. I've struggled with my weight all my life. I've always been very up and down with my weight. You know, at my highest, nearly 17 stone. And then, you know, when I've been kind of my happiest with how I look and my body, are probably about 11.5 stone. So I thought, you know what? My food was pretty good. I was maybe overeating a little bit. Portions were a bit big. So I thought, right, let's address this again. And started to assess what it was I was eating, started to think about what I was eating, started to think about how much I was eating, and then started to kind of have a little dilly-dally with working out again. And I ended up, you know, started to tip the scales back towards where I wanted them to be. And look, I'm not, you know, for me, standing on the scales a lot works. It's not for everyone, for sure. But that's how I kind of cope with it. Standing on the scales and see them going up doesn't demotivate me, it motivates me. And my personality is quite obsessive. So I started fixing what I was eating, just adjusting that, tweaking that, bringing it back into alignment, and started a kind of 10-week program to try and build some strength again. You know, I know how to lose weight, I know how to get in shape, but I also wanted to aesthetically be pleased with how I was looking. I didn't want to be skinny or skinny fat or any of those things. So I'm now back in a position where kind of physically I'm feeling pretty good. You know, my food is about where it should be. But there was a period in there where for about 2 weeks I just could not motivate myself to do almost anything. I had a couple of weeks off streaming because when it got to the end of the day, I just didn't have the energy. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I was like struggling to know my purpose and my reasoning for doing it. And people who follow me and come into the streams regularly will know I was communicative about what was going on, but I just was struggling with my energy levels. And then I realized that I had gone too far the other way. I wasn't eating enough. I wasn't fueling myself. I wasn't giving myself the right fuel. I was just struggling so much with energy levels that I had to readjust again. And this is what it's about, right? I remember Tony Robbins years ago, he said this thing where it's like, he's talking about someone on a golf course, and they would drive the ball and it would scoot off into the woods. It would go so far off to the right that it was embarrassing. And the golf coach said to this guy, like, you're only 1 or 2 degrees off, just 1 or 2 degrees. And the guy said, how can I be 1 or 2 degrees off? The ball is 100 meters out of where it should be. It's 100 meters away from the green. It's in the trees. That ball can't be recovered. It can't be found by man or science or any other means. It's gone. That's how bad that shot was. And the instructor explained that if you deviate 1 degree at the start point and then track that out and see how far it goes, if you on a piece of paper draw a dot and draw a straight line and then go 1 degree out from that straight line, and you were to draw that line out infinitely, the deviation at the end would be huge. It would look huge. The separation between those 2 lines would be massive. And what starts off as this small deviation becomes this massive chasm that feels unscalable. Unscalable is for mountains, isn't it? Impassable. This huge chasm that feels impassable. So that's what I'm finding with talking about my health and my fitness. My food is these constant tweaks to find that right level. And calorie counting and stuff can help and all of those things. But I think a big thing for me is, firstly, my relationship with food and how much I'm eating, but also getting more in tune with how I feel. The Japanese have this thing where they say you should only eat till you're 80% full. Now, my rule used to be I didn't stop eating till I felt shame. You know, I was the type of person where, as Louis C.K. described it, every shit was an emergency when I was a big boy. But I'm now trying to get to the point where I'm tweaking, not only to find what's right from a calorie point of view and to get to the weight and the physique that I want to get, but also trying to listen to my body and understand what it's telling me. You know, not just eat because, you know, maybe I've got a little pang, or actually maybe I'm thirsty, I need to drink more. There's still lots I want to do with my fitness. Like, I'm as stiff as a board. My flexibility is terrible. I've constantly got kind of aches in my hips and stuff. I know I sound like an old man, and I know for a lot of you that watch, I am an old man. There's still a lot I want to do with my fitness, but I'm moving most days. You know, 5 days a week I'm lifting something heavy. I'm eating well. And when there are deviations in how I eat, I recognise what that is. And overall, if you look at it in its totality, because calories don't reset every day, and fuel doesn't reset every day, in totality, I'm in a good position at the moment. I'm feeling good about what I'm eating. I'm feeling good about my fitness and how I'm looking. That's a big thing for me, is to make sure that my physical health is good. My ice baths I've been continuing to do. If I'm not doing an ice bath, I'm doing some kind of like cold exposure in the shower, cold shower. I don't want to be this guy that's like, I get up at 3 in the morning and by the time most people have woke up, I'm on my second day of work, or any of that bullshit. I'm not bending time here. What I am doing is saying, well, how does that make me feel? And I can't quite pinpoint it with the cold exposure and the ice bath stuff, but it does do something good for me. It does make me feel better. And when I'm lifting weights and stuff, and you know, you're getting those aches, it does help with recovery. And there's lots of studies and stuff that you guys can go look at this for yourself. But for me, it feels, not all the time, it doesn't feel like a good thing necessarily, but you know, after I feel good. So that's kind of where I am in terms of what I'm eating and my physical health. But what I wanted to actually talk about was success. And you've probably heard this thing of, you know, you've seen this image on some kind of wanky LinkedIn post where it's like 2 pictures with success written on them, and one has a straight line going towards success and one has a curvy line that kind of goes back and forth and wanders round and, you know, is deviates significantly, and then you hit success. And I see that often. I believe that's true. You know, I think, you know, the line to success is very rarely a straight one, and there is no formula and there is no paint by numbers. Copying what someone else does doesn't necessarily result in the same. It doesn't necessarily come to the same result because there's so many variables involved. I think what people don't often talk about is that, as well as the line to success deviating significantly, success itself, the actual thing that you're aiming for, is constantly shifting and changing. It's like some little quantum thing. And sometimes you get to where you thought success was, and you look back and it's shifted to a different position. You've shifted to a new goal. You've shifted to a new perspective. I think often you aim for these things. Like, I remember when I lost my job, and I've talked about this a lot. I lost my job. I lost a lot of money every year. There was lots of privileges and things that I had that were great. You know, I got paid for longer than most people get paid for after they lose their job. I earned a good amount of money when I was in that job. I had some savings. You know, there was lots of things that were great positives about that. But losing your job can still be a traumatic experience. And for me, it felt like a bit of a loss of identity as well. And I'd really been unhappy for a long time. And I felt like I was losing my identity as a person as well, but was very passionate about heading towards this creative thing that I wanted to do, these creative things. So I talked about this a lot. When I lost my job, my goal was I was focused on TikTok a lot, and my goal was to get to 10,000 followers. And actually I reached that quite quickly. I used the story of me losing my job. I used that as content, and that brought in a lot of new people. And we reached 10,000 followers quite quickly. And the reason to get to 10,000 followers was because it's the point at which I could start to earn more money off TikTok. And for me, it felt like a grail. It felt like a thing where it's like, if I get that, then, you know, we'll be all right. Actually, it turned out that I didn't earn that much money after the $10,000, not from the formats that I thought I would. And actually, that wasn't success. That wasn't a goal. The number of followers wasn't a goal. And then for a long time, I was, you know, really focused on getting a certain number of views. And then when I did videos that got those views, I still felt a little bit empty. Because, you know, maybe it was because I'd do the video and then it was, well, I did the video and it got the views, but I wasn't proud of it. You know, I wasn't proud of the content. I did the video, but it was a stupid one. Actually, it got lots of views, but it didn't get as many as X, Y, and Z person. I didn't get as many as this person. And I started this whole process of like comparison with what other people were getting. And, you know, I would hit views and then I would feel empty. I wouldn't feel like I was achieving anything. And success had changed again. And I know from the beginning, I talked about the fact that me following my passion and doing this wasn't about money, but still being realistic with the fact that money was a part of this. Money, that shape, that money was something that I had to at least have in the back of my mind. I couldn't ignore it because I've got responsibilities. And I think it's good to be able to manage money, and it's good to be able to make money. I just didn't want it to be a case of do anything for the money. And for a long time, I've really just scraped by to make what I would describe as my very minimum expenses, things for me that are undeniably things that I have responsibility to pay. You know, I can't not pay. And then the rest of the stuff, I'm so lucky and so grateful to have this wonderful wife who, honestly, she just supports me in whatever I'm trying to do. And we support each other. There's been times in our relationship where I've been the major breadwinner and I've paid for things. And there's been times in our relationship where she's been the person that's done that. And we've kind of flip-flopped between. And now she's dealing with the lion's share. And she's making sacrifices and we're making sacrifices as a family. Sacrifices that, you know, we discussed and I'd been very open about when we started this process. I'm so grateful to be in this position where she is supporting me in that way. And then over the past month or so, you know, I have made a little bit more money. It's not life-changing money. It's not, you know, we're mortgage-free money, but it's money that will enable me to, cover some of the expenses that I have for longer than just the next month. It's money that is more than I've made so far in my content career, and it is money that it's nowhere near what I was making before, but it's money. And I wouldn't describe the stuff I'm doing to make that money as like, yes, this is my end goal. I'm making money from the thing that I'm really passionate about. I'm making it sound like I've got an OnlyFans page now. I haven't. People don't want that. I'll keep offering it out, but the denials are coming in thick and fast. The rejections are coming in thick and fast. Apparently, an averagely built, aging, balding, nerding gamer is not a niche that has yet made it to the hub, but we'll keep working on it. Anyway, essentially the money at the moment is coming from making ad content for other brands that doesn't appear on my TikTok page. It's content that they will then go on to use for advertising, and that could be for a range of different brands. And if I was honest with myself, if I had a trust fund and millions in the bank, I'd be like, I probably wouldn't be doing this stuff for this income. But you know what? It's serving a purpose. It's enabling me to focus on what I think is an art form. I think content creation is an art form. I actually think content creation is a really shitty name for what we do. I think it's creativity and artistry, and some people struggle with that. Some people struggle with Tracy Emin's Unmade Bed, but she's an award-winning artist and one of the most revered modern artists of the day. Some people struggle with the shark in formaldehyde. I think what we do is an art form, and I think almost every creator I've met is forced to become multi-talented. They're forced to design their stuff, they're forced to edit their stuff, they're forced to film their stuff. There's very rarely a creator I come across where they're not like going, I'm looking at upgrading my equipment, looking at upgrading my mic, I'm looking at upgrading my setup so it is a better quality of content. Nobody's calling Martin Scorsese's films content, and I'm not saying that what I'm producing is Scorsese level, but it is creativity. It is, I'm putting stuff out there in the kind of within the restrictions that are set by the platforms that we have today. And I do have wants and desires to go and do bigger things, and more creative things, more in-depth things, I guess. And they scare me, and I'm taking steps to try and do those things, but there is a lot of fear there. So here's my thing, right? I keep reaching these points that I think previously I would have said, that's success. And then when I get there, I look back and go, it's behind me. Those things are behind me. I've achieved those things. And actually, it wasn't what I was looking for. It wasn't success. And there's another goal in front of me. Sometimes it feels like you're running a marathon and you get to the 25-mile marker. Is it 25? 26? You get to the final marker and then someone goes, I'm really sorry. We made a mistake. The end is actually another 10 miles away. And every time you get to the marker, the end has moved. So as well as success being, the road to success being this winding, curving mess of a spaghetti junction with all these cliffs and chasms that you can fall down and, snakes and ladders type situations that you can slip into, as well as that, when you think you're getting to the end of the game restarts. It's one of the most challenging things that you're almost never finished. You're never finished, and you always have this fear of what will the next thing be, what will the next success be. And here's another key thing. Even though the things that I'm doing sometimes are not like, yes, this is the ideal work for me, they are moving me closer to my ultimate goal of being, having a community of people that are interested in and connected with and affected by my content. I think that's ultimately what I want to do. I want to make stuff that affects people and changes people, and changes perspectives, and I have all these aspirational goals. And I heard someone say years ago that when you're, if you're a writer, you're creative, you're a filmmaker, you're an actor, not every job is going to be the perfect job. Not every job is going to be the job that you want to do. You might be writing an article that's like actually, I don't want to be an article writer, I want to be a novel writer. You might be an actor going, I don't want to do a commercial, I want to do a blockbuster film. You know, you might be all these questions in your mind about what you want to do and where you are now. And the only question you have to ask yourself is, does this move me closer to where I want to be? If the answer is yes, then you should take that and you should do it, even if it's not where you want to be in the end. And I think there is something to be learned from every one of those situations. These ads that I'm creating, the content that I'm creating, the scripts that I'm writing, they all have things to teach me about bigger projects, more creative projects. They all have things to teach me about people's attention and people's psychology and how people interact with platforms and how brands use content. And they all have things to teach me. And I'm having to lean on some of the things that I've learned over the past 10 years in the kind of corporate world, in inverted commas, in the world of, you know, marketing and advertising and all that stuff. And you know, I would much rather be out with my camera making a short film, but it's teaching me things that I can go on to use in those situations. It's teaching me things about editing. It's teaching me things about pacing. It's teaching me things about script writing. It's teaching me things about attention. It's teaching me all these things that I can go on to use in different situations. There is something to be gained from every one of these things that I'm doing, even if it's not where I want to be. And you know, I'm also doing lots of work for free, and I'm starting to get just inklings of people going, this is good, and maybe we can do something with this. Maybe we can pay you to do something like this for us in future. Maybe you can come and help us out with X, Y, and Z. And I'm trying to push myself out there. I went to an event the other day, and it's the first time at an event where I felt like I wasn't on my own, or I felt like I could interact a little bit more, that I felt like I had the confidence to push in front of people. And partly that's because, not push in front of people, that's the wrong phrase, like get in front of people and have a conversation with them and join conversations that I wasn't necessarily a part of. And partly that's because I'm just starting to know more people and be a bit more known within that space. And partly it's because my confidence is just building. And you know, the money that I'm making now from these ads and stuff that I'm making, the little money that I am making, thankfully, not only does it go towards my responsibilities, but it goes towards me reinvesting in my content, because going to these events, working at these events, meeting new creators, having those conversations has expenses related to it. And where I'm trying to build up a portfolio of work that I can show to other brands and I can show to people, and videography work and camera work and editing work, whilst I'm doing that, you know, I need to cover my expenses as well. So here's the takeaway, right? I've been busy in different and new and interesting ways than I have done previously. Things are starting to progress and kind of dribbles of interest and money and little trinkets of good news coming through that are indications that I think I'm moving in the right direction. And I'm recognising that as well as success not being a straight line, success is also not a final destination. I appreciate you guys. I hope you have enjoyed this ramble, and I hope to see you on the next one. If you haven't already, you can subscribe below. If you want to become a paid member to support the content that I'm producing, to support the events that I'm going to support the stuff that I'm doing, you can click join below, or you can go to co-fi.com/charmthegamer. And there's a membership program on there too, and all the benefits of those membership programs are listed on there. So I hope to see you on the next one, and as always, I appreciate you guys.